Success always draws attention, and in Africa today, that spotlight is fixed on Ghana. Not long ago, Ghana achieved what many thought was impossible. It beat the US dollar and rose to become the world's best-performing currency. In a continent where currencies often collapse, this was nothing short of a financial shockwave. The driving force behind this victory was gold. Through bold reforms in its gold sector, Ghana rewrote the rules of economic survival. Across Africa, leaders applauded. They praised Ghana's courage, its innovation, its results. But one nation chose not just to admire from afar. Sierra Leone decided to act. Inspired by Ghana's success, Sierra Leone is now adopting the same gold reforms in its own mining sector. It's a bold gamble, a test of whether Ghana's golden formula can be copied. But here lies the question: will Sierra Leone achieve the same miracle? Or will this move reveal the limits of a strategy that worked only once? This is the story we are about to uncover. On Thursday, September 18, 2025, a quiet but powerful meeting took place in Accra. Sierra Leone's finance minister, Sheku Fantamadi Bangura, sat down with Sammy Gyamfi, the chief executive officer of Ghana's Gold Board. The room carried the weight of history, because this wasn't just another diplomatic courtesy call. It was Sierra Leone's attempt to unlock a golden secret. The purpose of the visit was clear: to study Ghana's remarkable success with Gold-Bod, the very institution that helped transform Ghana's gold sector and fuel its economic rebound. For Sierra Leone, the stakes couldn't be higher. Like Ghana, Sierra Leone faces a familiar enemy: gold smuggling. For years, vast quantities of its precious metal have slipped quietly across borders, robbing the nation of wealth and opportunity. The mining sector, dominated by giant foreign corporations, has often left Sierra Leoneans feeling like spectators in their own story. This is why the visit mattered. Sierra Leone isn't just looking to applaud Ghana's victory, it's trying to rewrite its own destiny. The goal: curb smuggling, increase transparency, and capture the mineral revenues that for too long have vanished into the shadows. But will Sierra Leone's gamble pay off? Or will it discover that Ghana's formula cannot be so easily repeated? During the meeting in Accra, Sierra Leone's finance minister didn't hold back his admiration. Sheku Fantamadi Bangura praised the achievements of Ghana's Gold Board, calling it a true blueprint for sustainable gold sector reforms in Africa. He described Ghana's approach as an innovative step, a bold move that had formalized and strengthened the country's gold sector. And for Sierra Leone, he believed similar reforms could become a turning point, a chance to finally unlock the true value of its mineral wealth. Bangura's attention was fixed on three key areas: licensing, assaying, and traceability. Together, these reforms created a system where every ounce of gold is tracked, accounted for, and sold at fair value. A system designed to prevent wealth from slipping into the shadows. In response, Sammy Gyamfi, the CEO of Gold-Bod, welcomed Sierra Leone's interest. He promised collaboration, sharing of technical expertise, and the lessons Ghana had learned through trial and error. Gyamfi explained why these reforms matter so deeply. By formalizing the gold trade through licensing and responsible sourcing, Ghana had not only strengthened government oversight, but also built the one thing investors crave most: confidence. For Sierra Leone, it was a glimpse into what could be possible if it dared to follow the same golden path. The very fact that Sierra Leone turned to Ghana for help reveals an uncomfortable truth: its mining sector is struggling. On paper, Sierra Leone is rich. Iron ore, diamonds, rutile, gold, and bauxite lie beneath its soil, a treasure chest that should fuel prosperity. But in reality, the story is different. For decades, this sector has been dominated by foreign corporations. They control the largest operations. They take the lion's share, while Sierra Leone's government often holds only small minority stakes. Yes, artisanal miners still exist, but their efforts barely make a dent in the vast machinery of foreign control. And this imbalance has a cost. The government loses revenue, the nation loses opportunity, and the people lose faith. Experts warn that Sierra Leoneans no longer enjoy the rights to their own God-given resources. Wealth meant to build schools, hospitals, and jobs is instead flowing overseas. One case in particular exposed these cracks to the world: the bitter dispute between Sierra Leone's government and Koidu Holdings. Koidu Holdings, the crown jewel of Sierra Leone's diamond industry, born out of Israeli billionaire Benny Steinmetz's BSG Resources. For years, it stood as the biggest diamond mining company in the country. But in May, everything changed. Koidu abruptly announced it was shutting down operations in Sierra Leone. Overnight, more than 1,000 workers were thrown out of jobs. The ripple effect went beyond Sierra Leone. The shutdown threatened to disrupt global diamond supply chains and destabilize entire local economies. The question is, why? The roots of the crisis go back to 2024. Workers at Koidu had walked off the job, striking over unpaid salaries and disputes over compensation. But soon after, they agreed to end the strike, choosing dialogue over confrontation. It seemed like a chance for peace, a chance to solve the problem. But guess what happened next? But the peace didn't last. By early March, the workers were back on strike. Months of waiting had produced nothing. Management refused to offer a fair deal, and the workers felt betrayed. The core issue: salaries. On paper, wages were pegged to the US dollar. But in reality, payments were made in Sierra Leone's local currency. And here's where the injustice cut deep. Instead of using the current exchange rate, the company clung to one from 2016, an outdated rate that slashed real wages to barely a third of their true value. To put it simply, a worker earning $500 a month should have received 7.5 million leones. But under this scheme, they got only 2.25 million. The result? Families were left struggling to survive in an economy crushed by rapid inflation. What should have been a living wage became barely enough to buy food. And with that, frustration boiled over. The workers had no choice but to fight again. Think about that for a moment. Isn't that cruel? Yet should anyone really be surprised? Probably not. Companies will always find ways to cut costs. And in Africa, foreign corporations often get away with it because the system allows them to. Weak institutions, fragile oversight, it creates the perfect environment for exploitation. But the grievances at Koidu went deeper than money. Beyond the financial pain, workers spoke out about conditions no human should endure. Reports from former employees painted a grim picture. Hazardous, substandard, and dangerous working environments were the daily reality. Even basic needs were neglected. Imagine this: hundreds of workers forced to share fewer than 10 functional toilets across the entire operation. By international standards, especially those of the World Health Organization, that was a violation, far below what is considered safe or humane for industrial workplaces. It wasn't just underpayment, it was humiliation. It was survival in the shadows of wealth. There was no access to clean drinking water. Workers either carried their own supplies or risked dehydration during grueling shifts under the scorching heat. This wasn't just negligence, it was a violation. International standards, including ILO Convention 155 on occupational safety and health, demand far better conditions. At Koidu, those standards were ignored. Protective gear, too, was inconsistent at best. Some workers lacked the basic equipment needed for mining operations, exposing them to respiratory hazards and constant risk of physical injury. The message was clear: their health and even their dignity came second to profit. So when the workers rose up again, demanding fair wages and safe conditions, it wasn't greed, it was survival. In a sane world, this shouldn't have been a fight at all. The company should have listened. The strike should have ended with progress. But instead, silence. Throughout the ordeal, Koidu's management maintained a cold, distant stance. When pressed by journalists, the company's head of corporate affairs, Ibrahim Touré, offered nothing but a carefully worded response. He was restricted from making any comments on the issue for now, a silence that spoke volumes. In other words, the company's silence told its own story. They didn't care. Not once did Koidu publicly address the real complaints: the unfair exchange rates, the unsafe conditions, the lack of dignity. Instead, their focus was elsewhere. They spoke only of the strike's financial impact and what they called external political interference, as if the suffering of workers was a distraction. But then, everything changed. In March 2025, Sierra Leone's First Lady, Fatima Bayo, stepped into the storm. She traveled to the Kono region, the heart of the diamond fields and the epicenter of the strike. There, in front of the workers, she made her stand. Her words cut through years of silence. Koidu Limited, she declared, had been unjust to the workers for far too long. And this time, she warned, the government would not sit idly by while foreign companies exploited Sierra Leonean citizens. The moment was electric. Her remarks spread like wildfire across social media, sparking debate not just in Sierra Leone but far beyond. For the workers, it was the first time someone powerful had publicly echoed their pain. For Koidu, it was a warning shot they could not ignore. The First Lady's words carried weight, not just because of her title, but because she was one of them, a daughter of Kono, speaking for a community that had long questioned whether diamond wealth was truly benefiting Sierra Leoneans. Her intervention turned what was once a labor dispute into something much bigger. It became a national issue, a political issue, a test of whether Sierra Leone would stand with its people or with foreign corporations. And that's when the silence broke. A company that had ignored its workers' cries for months suddenly found its voice. But instead of addressing low wages or dangerous conditions, Koidu chose a different target, the First Lady herself. On May 6, 2025, the standoff escalated to an extraordinary level. Gustav Frederick Baudin, a director at Koidu Limited, sent a formal letter directly to the First Lady. In it, he leveled serious allegations about her involvement in the strike. It was unprecedented, a foreign-owned mining company openly challenging the wife of Sierra Leone's president, a direct shot at the country's first family. The dispute was no longer just about diamonds. It had become a battle over power, sovereignty, and respect. The accusations were explosive. Koidu Limited charged the First Lady with unlawful interference in company operations, with inciting workers to prolong their strike, with defaming the company's name, and even with directly causing financial harm to both Koidu and its parent company, Act.Inspired Limited. But the most shocking part was still to come. The letter didn't just accuse, it demanded. It called on the First Lady of Sierra Leone to publicly retract her statements, to put her words back in her mouth, and to provide a written promise that she would never again speak against the company. Imagine that. A foreign-owned diamond company trying to muzzle the wife of a sitting president in her own country. And the threat didn't stop there. The letter hinted at possible legal action if the First Lady refused to comply, raising the stakes in what was already a volatile standoff. This was no longer just about unpaid wages or unsafe conditions. It had become a clash between corporate power, workers' rights, and the political sovereignty of Sierra Leone itself. The government's response was cautious, almost too cautious. Information Minister Chernor Ba released a statement assuring the public that everything is being done to resolve the impasse. It sounded like diplomacy, like negotiations were unfolding quietly behind closed doors. But when it came to the accusations against the First Lady, the government stayed silent. No firm defense, no condemnation of the company, just ambiguity. This silence spoke to a deeper dilemma. Sierra Leone, like many resource-dependent nations, is caught in a tightrope act, the need to protect its citizens and their rights, while also keeping foreign investors from packing up and leaving. Support the workers too strongly, and you risk scaring off capital. Support the company, and you betray your people. And in the middle of it all, the First Lady herself has offered no formal response. Neither she nor her office addressed the accusations, leaving a void that was quickly filled with speculation, rumors, and uncertainty. The result? A fragile calm, with tension simmering just beneath the surface. Then came the breaking point. Just weeks after its clash with the First Lady, Koidu Limited made a stunning announcement. On May 12, 2025, the company shut down operations, and more than 1,000 workers were laid off overnight. The consequences were immediate and devastating. With annual exports from Koidu valued at nearly $100 million, the shutdown struck directly at Sierra Leone's fragile economy. Diamonds alone accounted for about 4% of the nation's GDP. Losing that revenue was more than a corporate setback. It was a national crisis. For a country still scarred by civil war and the Ebola epidemic, The closure felt like a cruel rewind. Progress slipping away, stability thrown into doubt, and the damage didn't stop with the government's balance sheets. On the ground, the ripple effects were brutal. Local businesses that depended on mine workers, food vendors, transport operators, small traders, reported their revenues collapsing by nearly half. Some lost 40%, others 60%. The shutdown wasn't just about diamonds. It was about families, communities' survival. The human cost was staggering. More than 1,000 workers suddenly found themselves without jobs. In Kono district, where opportunities outside mining are painfully scarce, this wasn't just unemployment, it was catastrophe. Each of those jobs had supported entire households. 5, sometimes even 7 family members relied on a single paycheck, which means the shutdown didn't just affect the workers, it upended the lives of more than 5,000 to 7,000 people. And the future looks bleak. Labor Ministry officials admit the skills of these miners are highly specialized. Years spent underground extracting diamonds, skills that can't easily transfer to other industries. Retraining them would require time, money, resources Sierra Leone simply doesn't have enough of. And until that happens, thousands are left stranded, their livelihoods erased in a single corporate decision. The shutdown was more than an economic blow, it was a social earthquake. Community leaders are sounding the alarm. With jobs disappearing, they warn of social instability. History in this region has shown a dangerous pattern. When economic hardship rises, unrest soon follows. And the timing couldn't be worse. Youth unemployment in Sierra Leone already hovers around 35%. Now, with more than 1,000 newly jobless miners flooding the labor market, the crisis deepens. The real problem is plain to see: dependence on foreign companies. For years, foreign investment in mining was sold as a lifeline, a pathway to prosperity, a ticket to development. But the reality has been far different. Koidu Holdings stands as proof. Instead of lifting communities out of poverty, these deals enriched foreign corporations while Sierra Leoneans were left with crumbs. Perhaps that's why Sierra Leone is now looking elsewhere for answers. To Ghana. Ghana's gold bod was established earlier this year under the Gold Bod Act, and its mission is bold: modernize gold trading. The institution has sweeping powers. It can buy, assay, and export gold directly from licensed artisanal and small-scale miners. Its mandate is clear: stop illegal gold flows, increase foreign exchange earnings, and finally bring traceability and accountability to a sector long plagued by corruption and smuggling. For Sierra Leone, battered by the collapse of Koidu, this model looks less like policy and more like a lifeline. But Gold Bod isn't stopping at traditional reforms. In partnership with the Ghana Commodity Exchange, it is venturing into new territory, exploring tokenization and gold-backed exchange-traded funds. The goal is simple but revolutionary: make gold ownership and investment more accessible, while ensuring investor protection through oversight from Ghana's Securities and Exchange Commission. If successful, this would place Ghana at the cutting edge of structured gold markets on the continent, a pioneer not just in mining reforms, but in financial innovation. And the results are already astonishing. In just the first 8 months of 2025, Ghana exported 66.7 tons of small-scale gold, worth an incredible $6 billion. That's more than the country exported in the entire previous year. Even more striking, small-scale output actually surpassed that of large-scale mining. The reforms are working. Smuggling is down. Confidence is up. And the Bank of Ghana's reserves are stronger than ever. Ghana's golden gamble has paid off. The question now is, can Sierra Leone replicate the miracle? The Sierra Leonean finance minister's visit to Accra was more than diplomacy. It was a signal, a recognition that Ghana's bold gold reforms might hold the key to unlocking economic transformation across West Africa. For Sierra Leone, a country long haunted by smuggling and weak regulation, the Ghanaian model offers both promise and risk. Centralized gold buying could tighten state control, boost revenues, and help fight money laundering. But experts warn of the challenges ahead. The system must walk a fine line, ensuring strong oversight while still protecting small-scale miners and keeping markets competitive. If Sierra Leone can strike that balance, the outcome could mirror Ghana's golden success. A new chapter where the nation finally benefits from the wealth buried beneath its soil. But if it fails, the country risks repeating the same cycle: foreign control, lost revenues, and broken promises. For Sierra Leone, this is more than economic policy. It is a gamble with its future.